Get your films on with the Blurs.
Once an idea has taken hold of the brain, it's almost impossible to eradicate.
Unpacking movies has never been more spot on, woke, fire, and just plain lit.
They are lit all the time.
So if you're unsure whether or not to plop down some cash for a film, check out the Blurs.
When a man with a 45 meets a man with a rifle, the man with a pistol is a dead man.
Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolyte.
You really only need to hang mean bastards. But mean bastards, you need to hang.
Don't say you weren't warned.
Ridiculous.
Here's Brandon and Jeff.
Hello and welcome to episode 133 of the Film Blurs. My name's Brandon Norwood, and as always, I'm joined with...
Hey, it's Jeff Stewart.
And we have a guest today. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I am Matthew Schuchman. I am a fellow film critic. I freelance and write for Den of Geeks, Cinema Daily US, and I also co-host the podcast Overdue Rentals.
Welcome, Matt. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anytime. Let's dive right into it. You picked a movie that for us that we're going to talk about today. A movie I hadn't seen in a long time. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I haven't actually watched it for the longest time until getting ready to talk to you guys also, but it is a movie that, it's for, not to hold it back, it's The Last Dragon, because there is a handful of films, and maybe even more than a handful, that I remember, very specifically also as a child in the 80s, like if you were watching HBO and the 20th Century Fox logo came up, it was probably a Star Wars film. If you saw the TriStar Picture logo come up, for some reason, it was always The Last Dragon. So even films that weren't later on, I see that TriStar logo and I get all excited because The Last Dragon is a movie that, and we'll get into it obviously, but it's technically not a good film, but it's the best film in the same breath. And granted, maybe it's because I was in love with it as a child and there's a whole slew of films like that I can go through, but it's so ridiculous, but yet so amazing and so perfect that it needs to be brought back up again.
I mean, nostalgia is a very powerful thing, and I rewatched it this morning before we hopped on, and it feels like The Last Dragon has always been with me, right? Like, I remember as a child, it was always on.
Yes.
Somewhere. Either it was on HBO or then it moved to like TBS or whatever like that. Like, it was playing at least 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, that's at least what my mind is telling me.
It was something that granted, I'd seen it plenty of times. My brother and I both, we saw it so many times as a kid, but every time I was just hoping that's what would come on. And again, even as a kid, and so I'm seeing it now when I'm 6-7 years old for the first time. Even then, I kind of knew how ridiculous that movie was and the premise and everything. But because there are films that are nostalgic that, yes, I loved as a kid. I try to watch now and I just can't do it, but I still love it. Where The Last Dragon is something that you can actually still watch and enjoy on so many levels. And granted, it's everything from, look, Julius Carry is show enough. Because back then, when I watched that movie, that's all I knew him from. And for the longest time, it was you had to be in the right place to catch him. And then all of a sudden, The Adventures of Bruce County Jr. comes on, and he's Lord Bowler. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's Shonuff. And, it's the greatest thing in the world to me. And he's so perfect because he is both over the top, but in the same breath, so natural and perfect for the movie that's being presented that it almost feels like he's not over the top. And it's just so perfect. And then there's also things as you grow older and you're like, oh my God, that's William H. Macy as her agent, I'm guessing. They don't really say. It seems like it's their agent. And then Chaz Palminteri, who's listed as Hood number 2 as the limo driver when they try to kidnap her the first time. And it's being so cornily thrown through an open window as that's going to defeat him. And then it's just a few years later, for more 10 years later, that he's taking over Hollywood for a hot second, And it's just so weird because you can enjoy it on that visceral level and then enjoy it as now I'm an adult going back and seeing how certain things in this were so brilliant level.
Yeah. So as I was watching it, this recent time, I was and you get this with a lot of these movies from the 80s and stuff like that. It's like, ooh, this is really problematic. If you look at The Last Dragon, Bruce Leroy, he's autistic, right?
or something like that,
right?
Because he the way he acts, the way he acts around Vanity, like isn't that who that is? That's Vanity.
Yeah. Well, Laura Charles is the character.
Like it's weird. But also, I gotta say, like, the opening sequence is one of my favorite opening sequences of him training while blocking arrows being shot at him.
But, when you started saying problematic, because I'm thinking of, like, as a kid, I never thought twice about what at the time I imagine was just a cross-dresser. Like, in that fight in the movie theater at the beginning, one of the person's like significant other is obviously a cross-dresser.
Yes,
but like, and that's the thing. Watching it now, it's like there's no mention of it. It's just a person who's sitting watching a movie with all these other people and enjoying it, and then having to like hope everybody gets beat up in this fight. And like, it's so well dealt with compared to the stuff that in the 80s that wouldn't deal with it like that.
Can I just say that movie theater seems like the perfect movie theater to go to? Like, everybody's shouting and yelling, everybody's getting drunk, everybody's smoking weed, and then somebody comes in with a boombox and immediately somebody runs and just stomps it out and everybody claps and sits down and watches the movie again.
I don't know if I'd want to be... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think Draft House should reinstate that, like just a dude who comes in and just drop kicks people talking.
As much as I love the wide array of people in that audience, I don't know if I want to be sat next to the big biker with the chains and everything like that. Not because I think I'm scared of him. It's just like something about him is just like, man, something you're gonna smell probably, and I don't think I want to deal with that.
That is the most diverse audience I've ever seen. Like, you got punk rockers, hip hoppers, people of all different ethnicities, a little kid in there. I was like, what the fuck is a little 6-year-old boy watching Enter the Dragon, bro?
It's the power of cinema.
Look, it's the power of Bruce Lee too, because again, you're making a movie that revolves around karate, kung fu, whatever you want to call it at this point, because I think it was an amalgamation of a lot of different things.
Yeah,
we'll say martial arts, I guess.
Yeah,
but it is like that. I mean, Bruce Lee's legacy never has died, but at that point in time, it was still like. Not to now invoke another name of another movie that I probably should have mentioned, because I also want to talk about The Golden Child at one point or another. But Bruce Lee's still the Golden Child. He's still this this aura that like nobody else could match. Because now you have people that I'm not going into a discussion about like this person can beat up Bruce Lee if he was around and like that. But Jackie Chan wasn't a thing. There's only so many people at that point, even still, that you can go to like that's the master.
Right, yeah. And actually, the whole entire movie, every gang is very United Colors of Benetton, right? Like Bruce Leroy's, like his brother's karate gang or whatever like that. The Shonuff gang, like it felt very 80s, as in like we're just gonna throw all these colors together, and I'm surprised that there wasn't a scene where they had to break dance to save a building or a gym from being closed down.
You're reminding me of you have two things now that you're making me think of, because not only as far as the wide array of different people in these gangs, but like even Shonuff as a character that normally in other movies you think could be like very, and he is oppressive, don't get me wrong, but he actually shows love and wants the rest of his gang to succeed, especially the women. He doesn't like he's like, she's going to kick your ass. Come on, just do it. Doesn't even think about it. But what's funny was I was rewatching it because I have a copy of it, but I'm like, I didn't want to get up. So it was on Tubi.
Yep.
And I fell asleep at the very end. And when I woke up, Breakin' was playing. And that's also, Breakin' and Breakin' 2. Breakin' 2 was really honestly more my childhood than Breaking 1 for some reason. Like that's the one, again, after Last Dragon, I would always watch Breaking 2 like no tomorrow. But again, as much as you have thinking about nostalgia, Breaking 2 is the one where it's like, or Breaking and Breaking 2 almost are like, yeah, you know, I understand what they were doing, but it's so silly. Where Last Dragon, there's still that love in a certain sense that doesn't want to make you talk bad about it.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I've never gotten to a conversation where someone was like, I hate The Last Dragon. Right?
Because it's hard to hate this movie. It knows exactly what it is. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And the opening credits, you already know what you're in for.
Right? And we're not even talking about like the fact that Barry Gordy produced this. Like this is pretty much just a huge music video.
Yeah, because the movie stops once we get to Seventh Heaven, and they just showcase all these songs. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is the Motown part of the movie. Like,
right.
goddamn.
I mean, it goes the whole way too. And look, I'm not gonna, as much as I grew up, I knew more about DeBarge and a lot of other acts. Like to me, you say DeBarge, and all I can think of is that first scene in Seventh Heaven. I want to say I'm I'm trying not to sing the lyrics to get anybody copyright shit, you know. But it's like that, and that's the thing too. Again, as a kid watching it, you know, it's like I didn't know who Barry Gordy was. And then it was like, you know, the man who made Motown decided, he's like, I'm gonna put my money behind a motion picture, and it ends up being The Last Dragon, which, and maybe I will copyright strike you now too, because throughout my life, even if I'm not watching the movie, every so often I will go, "You got the glow, the power, see, you got the glow." You know, it's like it sinks into your mind, and you can't escape it.
Absolutely.
Now, did this come out before or after Purple Rain? Because somehow this feels like it is a direct sort of...
Yeah, I feel like this is post Purple Rain.
I think it's before Purple Rain, because Purple Rain was like 87 or 88, right?
Let me go to the Google machine.
Yeah, everybody's...
I know Last Dragon was 85. That much I know.
But like,
perfect time to suck me in.
But it felt like a shots fired to me to Purple Rain. It's like, all right, you have a vehicle for Prince where you know he's singing and acting. Well, I'm gonna have all of my stable of performers in there, and they're gonna do kung fu.
Yeah,
I mean
I love. Okay, yeah.
I mean, no offense to Purple Rain as a movie, but Last Dragon's better as a movie. Purple Rain better as a soundtrack, right? Like soundtrack 100%. Is one of the best albums ever made.
Yeah, no one's
100% on the money. Yeah, you're 100% on the money.
No offense, like I watched Purple Rain a few times. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to watch Purple Rain again.
It's because it's not a great movie. And Prince had so many opportunities. There were so many roles that people threw at him, and he didn't take most of them, you know, for a good reason, honestly. I mean, I'm sure he thought differently, but Prince is not an actor. I'm sorry, you know?
Yeah.
He can play a lot of fucking instruments, but sorry, I don't know if we can curse on your. Oh, no,
you're allowed to curse. We say all types of shit.
He can play a lot of fucking instruments, but acting was not one that he was great at.
You gotta give it up to Under the Cherry Moon, though. That movie's wild on so many levels.
I mean, Under the Cherry Moon, a Graffiti Bridge, like, he tried. He fucking tried.
Under the Cherry Moon's better than Purple Rain as a movie. I'll say that much.
I mean, yes,
as an experience for sure.
So, Purple Rain came out in '84.
Oh, okay. Shit! All right, so I am way off base. Yeah.
So this felt like we in our last episode we were talking about like Volcano versus Dante's Peak, or Armageddon versus
Deep Impact.
Deep Impact. Yeah.
Right. So like The Last Dragon versus Purple Rain. That's what this sort of feels like to me.
Well, I'm like Brandon said. I'm sorry. There's no. I mean, I'm sure there are people who want to argue, but Last Dragon wins out. Like.
100%.
Yes.
I can't even remember what Purple Rain is about besides Prince looking sad, being mad at his dad.
It's basically 8 Mile. You know what I'm saying? Like they did it again with 8 Mile. It's 8 Mile.
8 Mile with an attempt to push Morris Day into the spotlight more at one point. You know, more than he was to people at that time. Yeah,
right.
But it's like. it's also, again, I'm not trying to like take away from the whole Prince thing now and veer the conversation in a certain way. But again, as a kid, there are so many movies I love. But as I grew up and like around the ages between 10 and 13 is where my love for film started to really grow. And I'm like, I'm going to learn a lot more now about behind the scenes action, all of these things. And, I became a staunch believer in things of, like, you can't have more than one willing suspension of disbelief in your film, otherwise you've failed. But Last Dragon's the one where I'm going to allow two of them, because that there is this mystical power, even though technically you can argue that maybe it doesn't really exist, but, it is. But then also the fact that 1980s Harlem was the karate capital of the world.
Yeah, I did notice that. Like everybody knew kung fu.
Yes,
and it's just sure. Why not?
The last time a movie had everybody knew kung fu, it was Transformers 4, where they went to China and everybody knew kung fu there too.
I pushed that movie out of my head, so I'm going to let you. I'm taking your word for it.
I saw the screening and then forgot completely about it after that.
I went to a screening and then I watched it again recently as a Michael Bay retrospective, and I totally forgot when Stanley Tucci runs in the elevator and he's being chased by the bad guys, and then some random Asian dude in China just drops his grocery bags and saves them because he knew kung fu.
What's funny about it too is I feel that it did cause like a whole other slew of everybody knows kung fu movies, but like I don't remember any of them other than The Last Dragon off the top of my head. That is, I'm sure if you show me one, I can go, yeah, I remember that. And I'm not talking about surf ninjas or stuff like that. I'm talking about much more of like the style of, like we're in a very specific place and it's just everybody fighting in some sort of martial arts style.
I would say the only other, these examples I'm going to bring up make sense because that's the world that the characters inhabit in the movie is like The Raid and John Wick. But at least those make sense because that's the world they live in.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I'll argue a little bit with John Wick only for the sense that what annoys me about John Wick is the fact that apparently if you have a face, you are an assassin. Because like that, there are so many. Everybody in those movies, unless you're like in a car driving by or just in the background, you're also an assassin. There are way too many assassins in the John Wick world. That's all I'm saying.
Don't shit on my dreams, man. Like I want to be an assassin. Like
Look,
I want the gold coin. I really want to know how their economy works, honestly.
Yeah, man, we need a movie about the high table itself and who's on the high table is my question.
Something's going to come. Like I know the Continental didn't do well, and I know that they're as much as they want to deny it, that eventually they're going to bring him back, and there's going to be the John Wick 5. But that's the thing where they're going to mine it, and they're going to find ways to do it. And I think, just like you said, I think like a high table type of movie, like backstory is probably the way to go.
Well, prepare for Ballerina next summer. We'll be at the press screening. Sitting there, we still giving Len Wiseman chances, believe it or not. Yeah,
There's a lot of people that gotta stop giving chances. And most of all should be Zack Snyder.
He says he wants to do a Wolverine movie.
Fuck that guy. Seriously, look.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the Dawn of the Dead remake. And most probably now thinking about it is because James Gunn wrote the script, most probably.
Yeah.
Because Zack Snyder is a guy who can show you some nice visuals, but he does not know how to make a movie. I'm sorry, he does not know how to tell stories. And like, it's even to the point, and like, I'm not trying to now just promote my own podcast here or anything like that, but we had Trace Bulow, who was the Crow from the original Mystery Science Theater 3000, on an episode to talk about Dread. The Carl Urban Dread. And we started getting into this whole Zack Snyder discussion. And we just went on, like, you go find that episode, listen to it for it's like a half hour ripping into how Zack Snyder makes movies. But like, I remember it was right after the Zack Snyder's Justice League 4-hour cut came out. And I'm like, I'll watch it just to see, even though I hate the movie in the first place. And he's got the scene where it's Lois Lane walking in the pouring rain, talking to cops, and then a news van drives by, throws a newspaper on the ground, and it says, New York developer, something, something, something. And that cuts to Wonder Woman in London. And I'm like, to me, you're trying to say that where you're going to cut to is this New York thing. And I was told that was supposed to be an allusion to the fact that he was trying to make a remake and or updated version of Anne Rine's The Founder.
Oh yeah, the Fountainhead. He's been trying to do...
Fountainhead. Yeah,
yeah. He's been do that since Sucker Punch.
He is not that smart. Stop trying.
Why is that in the movie? That has nothing to do with anything. I don't give a shit about some movie you think you're making. Fucking. I mean,
he has no narrative flow. Like, take Batman versus Superman, right? Perry lays into him like, "Hey, Clark. Where's Clark? Where'd he go? He click his heels 3 times and go back to Kansas." You immediately cut to what Clark's doing after that. And instead you cut to a couple of different scenes before it finally gets to what Clark was up to. I remember that perfectly. That's not how storytelling works, bro.
So here's the thing. Zack Snyder is an amazing art director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, he'll make your shit look pretty. He just won't make it smart. He doesn't know his audience, but then again, he does know his audience, right? So that whole entire thing you're telling me about, this whole entire Ayn Rand Easter egg in the newspaper. What about his fan base? Right? The bro dudes are gonna pick that up. Right?
No, it's
like, who's that for?
It's for him. It's fucking for him. And it's irritating. And look, I mean, like, I'm not trying to say that other films don't have issues, but the problem is that he's just one large issue. And again, not to go so far off topic, and I promise I won't, but I'm going to just to make an example, because everybody loves, for the most part, a lot of the Marvel movies, and especially the big, Infinity War and Endgame stuff. I thought Infinity War was the best one. Sorry. But like, it's like, I use Endgame as an example as to a bad thing you shouldn't do in a movie that Zack Snyder will constantly do. Because in the opening of Endgame, they're all gathered around trying to figure out where Thanos is. We got to find him. Nebula shows up and goes like, "Oh, we always talk about going to the garden." And it's like, "Oh, but where's that?" And then like 5 seconds later, because we spent 5 minutes or so, I don't remember how long, arguing over it, trying to find out where it is. That's when Tony comes back, so everybody's worried about what's happening with him. Then you have Rocket going, 2 days ago, an energy surge happened that has never been seen except for when he uses the stones. Like, then why are you arguing where the fuck he is? 2 days ago you saw this and you just fucking sat on it? It's like, that kind of shit pisses me off. And that's what Zack Snyder does throughout his entire films. Is basically just, I think this looks cool, so I'm going to throw it in there, and I don't give a shit about the rest of what's going on around it.
Yeah.
That makes me angry.
Yeah.
But
I still haven't subjected myself to the 10-hour cut.
I refuse. I refuse because I don't want to give it a view to somehow maybe possibly go, "Oh, we'll give it money to do another one."
I will watch it when Netflix gives me my 1 week press account, because every week in December they gave me a press account for 1 week. That's when I'll watch it.
Yeah, I refuse. I thought, like I said, the same thing. Like, I know I'm going to hate it, but I'm like, I'll just to see what's going on. But I kind of refuse this time, because that's what I did. That's what I did with his 4-hour Justice League. I'm like, I don't like the movie in the first place, and I don't think this is going to change anything. But I said, like, let me see what happens, and I did it, and I regretted it.
You know, how I hate how he pushed how radically different it was from the theatrical cut, and then you watch it, and you're just like, well, it's better made, and it's just longer, but it's the same story.
Right, like nothing actually changed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? You just made it black and white, put chapters in it.
Yeah.
And I feel I shouldn't say this. I'm not going to say this. I'll tell you guys later.
Go ahead, say it. Say it.
I mean, before we move on, does this dude really have to have R-rated director's cuts? I'm like, bro, at a certain point, if you can't not make a movie rated R, like, that tells me a failure as a filmmaker on yourself.
Or just make it we know who you are. We know who you are. Just make it R-rated to begin with, or just stop trying to ooh.
Yeah, well, that's the issue. That's the issue with movies in general. I think beyond him, but he's the example, because it's like I mean, I adhere to content as king. So if you show me a movie with shitty cinematography, shitty sound, not the best acting, but you have an amazing story, I'm going to appreciate it.
Right.
Now, of course, I want everything to work out well. And he's the same because his R-rated version apparently is just bloodier with more nudity and sex, and he thinks that's going to make it better. It's like because he's a child. Because he is like, oh, man, this is awesome. Look what I did. Sorry, no. This is not how it goes.
We call him the cinema bro. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
Do you even cinema bro?
Is there an exploding ball sack in your movie? Do you even cinema, bro? I don't think so.
How much slow-mo do you got, though, man? How much slow-mo?
Well, Matt, take, for instance, this, because I bring this up all the time on the show. Right when, I think it was Watchmen. Right when Watchmen was coming out, he straight up said he doesn't know how to make a Batman movie because his Batman movie would be dark. And he said in his Batman movie, Batman would be raped. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I remember a little bit of that. I don't remember that last part, honestly.
Yeah. I was just like, it explains his Watchmen adaptation, it explains Batman versus Superman, and it definitely explains Justice League. At least Man of Steel, you could tell that had Nolan's hand on it, so a lot of his Snyderisms are kind of down, but even though the third act, I'm just like, bro, you need to pull back so much.
It's like, there are a lot of, I'll just say filmmakers, but it's more than just filmmakers, but there are a lot of filmmakers out there who say things that are considered controversial, and then like 10 years down the line, even though if it wasn't controversial at the time, somebody's going to go like, oh, well, no, really this, that, or the other thing. And my example is I very vividly remember when Malcolm X came out, Spike Lee and went and said like he made the greatest biopic ever. And a lot of people were like, how can you say that? I'm like, well, I'm sorry. You didn't even have to wait 10 years. It's fucking true. They shouldn't make biopics after he made Malcolm X because you're not going to get better than that. But nobody is going to say that about Zack Snyder 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now. Whatever he says is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
And the people who will champion him and the things that he says are not the people you want anywhere near you.
Yes.
I wouldn't know because I don't think I've ever had him near me, thank God. But I will say this. And now because I still have a lot more to say about Last Dragon. I'm sorry. I don't want to get too far off topic.
Let's steer it back.
Because you tell me what you think about this, if you thought this too. Now, granted, it changed a little bit over the years, but there is the character of Johnny Woo, who is like basically Leroy Green's like right-hand man, if you consider it that. I always thought that was Pacific Agent Johnny Depp when I was a kid. Did anybody else get that feeling?
I mean, he was a pretty motherfucker. Yeah, like. Honestly, I don't know if this is racist or not. I thought at first it was Ernie Raines Jr.
Oh, okay. Well, he is in the movie, right? He's one of the. Oh, he's right.
He's one of the kids.
He's in the movie. He's in the movie, but I thought he was one of the fortune cookie warehouse guys. But I could be wrong. But he is in the movie. He definitely is.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, it is Asian American Johnny Depp. But here's another thing. For a movie from the 80s, it is surprisingly not racist.
Oh, yeah. What are you talking about, bro? That shit is wild racist. Like,
I mean, that's weird. I disagree. Interesting.
Compared to all the shit else in the 80s, like, my feelings on like the Blues Brothers, Animal House, like those were racist.
Bro, this shit has fucking like I'm saying this in context of the movie, but they constantly calling Asians and Bruce Leroy Cooley, like fucking. They have his younger brother's like, yeah, he's just a chocolate covered yellow fever. I was like, the fuck?
It's funny, because there are things, but it's like that. Well, that is definitely said in a derogatory term. There's a lot of stuff that feels like it's said just because. And I'm not trying to white boy things because of the time kind of stuff. But it's weird thinking because Michael Schultz, who directed the movie, also directed Cooley High. He also directed another one of my favorite 80s bad movies that I love, which is Disorderlies.
I love that fucking movie.
He also did Crush Groove.
Yeah, see, I love Crush Groove.
So he did the holy trinity of 80s movies right here.
He did a lot. He also did Carbon Copy. He did a lot of stuff that I did not realize the same person made up until I looked it up because I was not paying attention at the time.
Yeah, no one paid attention to the director or the writer of Last Dragon. It's sort of just like it appeared. It kind of made itself.
It is interesting though that you bring up the fact that there are a lot of randomly racial things going on because again, watching it, if you're watching it and maybe you miss certain lines or something like that, it's almost as if like it never happened. And granted, not even the lines. I think a lot of people, like, you know, anybody walking up, because I don't think it was meant in a bad way, but I think anybody walking up who wasn't necessarily Bruce Lee even going, and I feel bad because I'm doing it now, so I apologize, but going like, wah, you know, is a very similar thing.
Yeah.
But you don't think about it back then. You never thought about it. And even now, a lot of times, because maybe it became so normalized that you almost forget that also is technically not the best thing to do.
Yeah, it made me a little uncomfortable in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when Brad Pitt did it, when he had his face off with Bruce Lee.
Right. And you, Brandon, you kind of bring up an interesting point. Because I grew up with this movie, maybe I only see the good parts of this, right? Like, I'm not seeing the fact that, like, oh yeah, they shouldn't be going around calling people coolie or doing I'm going to say the Bruce Lee noise.
I fucking wouldn't do that. Of course, because I'm an asshole.
No, but you're doing it in context of an example. You're not like trying to make fun of Bruce or mock him, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean,
you're not Mickey Rourke, not Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's, right? You're good.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like going back, because it's just like you said. And it's tough also, speaking of it, I guess, as the, you know, if everybody listening couldn't tell from my voice, the white man perspective, because as much as I like to empathize, there's no way I'm ever going to understand because I never felt a lot of things. But growing up, being that the kid, The Last Dragon is not a kid's movie per se, but growing up and being all the things I watched as a kid were the things like Last Dragon and Disorderlies and all this other stuff. Even though, you know, there are certain things being said that are detrimental to somebody's well-being, we'll put it, there was a part of me that always felt I grew up in a world, in my little bubbled world, that we all still kind of got along, you know, because on the surface level, everybody was kind of equal in a lot of ways. And that's kind of how I envisioned stuff for the longest time as a child, whether or not I knew things were right or wrong in certain senses. And even if, you know, at the end of the day, you're throwing out your morally positive code, you always kind of stuck to that. And you're like, oh, we're trying to say we're all good. We're all equal. And, you know, so it is weird in the reevaluation of all these things, realizing how kind of like misstepped you were on some stuff.
Absolutely.
It's a fair assessment.
It's a piece of history, right? It forms the times, right? Because, you know, you could always do better going forward, but, you know, you just gotta look at it as what it was. It is what it is. Right. Like, I'm not saying the movie itself is racist. It just has racist shit in it.
Right. You know. I wasn't gonna say anything else, but like movies that people consider classics now, like
Gone with the Wind.
Like Gone with the Wind. Like, perfect example. I was having this conversation the other day. I used to love the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, I hear it. Yeah.
All right. And then it's like, oh, as an adult, it's like, oh, that's a giant Confederate flag on that vehicle. Right? So, like, hindsight's 2020.
What's the thing? Like, I mean, as much as there were things that I like that may be problematic now, I am the type of person that doesn't mean I'm not going to go rewatch it. For the most part, there are random things that may be a little different, and I'm not trying to get into the whole art versus the artist argument either, because like I know what somebody did wrong, but if I see something that is brilliant, and I want to learn from it for the things that are good, I'm going to learn from it. I mean, it's like you brought up Gone with the Wind. Another great example is, the story goes, and I who knows now if I'm just, hearing a rumor that wasn't necessarily true, but there was a student in one of Spike Lee's NYU classes that had told that Spike Lee was doing a whole talk and mentioning Gone with the Wind, and somebody said to him, "It's like, Spike, how can you like that movie with how racist it is?" He's like, "If you don't love Gone with the Wind, there's something wrong with you. It doesn't matter what's in it. If you're not learning as a filmmaker, if you're not learning from the Gone with the Wind, get out of my class," kind of thing. I don't know the exact verbiage of what was going on. And like, it's like, look, I remember being in film school and watching Birth of a Nation, like the original Birth of a Nation, of course, which is horrific. But the fact that, you're watching it because the guy was using color filters before anybody thought about this stuff, and you're realizing how far back some of this stuff goes, and that's why you watch it,
All right, like we don't talk about where Velcro comes from, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I feel like this is something I know, but I don't know. So please enlighten me.
It was developed in Germany during the war.
Okay. Gotcha.
Like a lot, like we don't talk about the scientific improvements that we all we just sort of
accepted without question.
Like, and I want to say accepted, but it's just like good things can come from horrible things, I guess. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Without trying to be too offensive,
But that's the thing. Yeah, it's like, but that's where it becomes that whole, like, like Polanski is the example. It's like, he did what he did, and I'm not trying to now make up for it for him. It doesn't mean I'm not going to go back and watch Chinatown and explain to people what's going on if they don't understand how revolutionary that was. I mean, even going back to, like, tension today in films wouldn't be the way they are without Rosemary's Baby, without hiding people behind door frames and stuff like that. That shit didn't exist until Polanski did it,
I just recently rewatched The Ghostwriter, right? And I had forgotten how brilliant a film that is, but
I love that
also
movie.
like, but also it's like, oh yeah, he is a child rapist, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not gonna say he's a great person. I'm not going to ask to interview him. I'm not going to ask for all these things. But it's not going to stop me from going back.
Right. Same with Woody Allen.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, Woody Allen's a piece of shit too, but he's made some great movies, man.
Well, I still have this argument, and I'm not trying to be this person now. So don't get me wrong. Everybody, before I say it, please don't think it was like, because I will definitely say that for without a doubt, Woody Allen's always been like the I'm into younger women kind of thing, and it kind of creepy like that. But from a lot of the stuff I know, and a lot of the stuff that I know from behind the scenes from people that I've talked to, and even before all this came out, talking to Woody Allen myself, I don't think the actual thing that he's been accused of with Dylan happened. I'm not trying to say that he's not a creep and a weirdo. I'm just saying that one thing I think did not happen.
Well, my entire thing is I have never been a Woody Allen fan. So
you don't fuck with Midnight in Paris or Small Time Crooks or Interiors?
I do like Small Time Crooks.
Brandon brings up Interiors. He's going there. Look, I grew up. Look, I'm an atheist.
I will not
but
defend Manhattan, though. I cannot defend that shit.
Well, I grew up in a Jewish household, so my life growing up was Sleeper, was all the slapstick stuff. Take Your Money and Run. What's Up, Tiger Lily, where they, again, did a lot of weird racist stuff in it because they bought an old Japanese James Bond knockoff and then just overdubbed it with their own movie. Way before people were doing stuff like Zelig.
Yeah, that movie's amazing.
Zelig did all of Robert Zemeckis' fancy Forrest Gump contact fitting in the real world shit before the technology was there. He's walking around in a Nazi rally behind Hitler. It's like that shit happened, in the 80s. Sorry, guys, But again, I don't want to go too far off the rails.
Right.
I've already incriminated myself somehow that somebody's gonna like this guy defended Woody Allen.
Just a heads up, Matt. We do this all the time. We go on tangents. Like,
Yeah.
That's what. Well, I don't mind. We do the same thing, but tangents are great and they're the best thing. But sometimes you get so wrapped up, you say something you're like, "Wait, did I just say that?"
It was like, "Oh, I can't take that back now. I gotta live with it."
Exactly. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So isn't this movie coming up on its 40th anniversary or
I
something
think so.
like that?
Yeah, right. Because 1985. So Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird thinking about, because again, I know people know about the movie, but it's one of those things that I felt a lot of the younger generation would have picked up on by now, and they haven't, especially since I'm sitting there watching Stranger Things season 4, and then in the video store, and I see a poster behind them like that. What is? Oh, it was the original Last Dragon poster that's like front and center frame behind them, but they don't show you the Last Dragon on it, and it doesn't really show all the characters. And it's like, well, how come nobody's asked about that and then picked up and go and watch The Last Dragon? Or how come that movie's not mentioned in Stranger Things? All they do is mention Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Come on.
So I think as cinephiles, we owe it to ourselves to just put these movies on TikTok in like 5-minute clips, right?
I can't do that.
Just so like.
The younger generation, but they shouldn't be in the if you can't. And this is the thing that pisses me off is like Winona Ryder recently said on the Beetlejuice press tour that when she makes Stranger Things, it bums her out because she'll talk to the younger cast and try to get them to talk about movies, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't like watching movies," and I know exactly who she's talking about because it's Millie Bobby Brown, because I remember reading an interview recently, like a couple of months ago, where she's just like, yeah, I don't like watching movies. And somebody asked her, aren't you an actress though? She's like, yeah, I just don't like watching movies. And I was like, well, that explains your abilities. Anyone who fucking is in this, you do it because you love movies. You know what I mean? You study the craft. And then to hear like, oh yeah, I don't like watching movies. I just sit down and watch TikToks, or I just sit down and do social media.
It's like, but this is part of the job.
Yeah, man.
Like,
and again, that explains exactly the type of actress she is.
What we need more of is, instead of people who put on, and I love the fact that there are the theaters out there that put on, retrospectives and show like a whole night of like 3 movies from the 80s or 90s, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. They should do it where it's a double bill, where you pay for the ticket. You're going to see 2 movies no matter what, and one of them is a classic old film, and then they show the modern movie that was inspired by it, or the modern movie that has like kind of like a connected soul to it, even though they have nothing to do with each other. So that way they can come and see the new thing that they may be interested in more, but still get the exposure to wherever the older item is.
I still don't think that would work for Millie Bobby Brown, because it just seems like she don't want to watch movies, period. Yeah,
I mean, and sometimes I do master classes and I teach kids, and the amount of, and we're not talking like 5-year-olds, we're talking like 14, 15-year-olds who have never seen Star Wars. Who don't like who've never like these movies that are fundamentally like it's a part of the culture, right? It just kind of bums me out.
What bothers me about it more is, because I can understand that I'm okay at this point now. I wasn't at one point, of people not seeing certain things as long as they're willing to go out there and see them. My problem more so is that they are seeing them, and then that's all it is. It's like they only connect it to the zeitgeist of what's being talked about now. They only reference, they can only connect things to the Marvel universe. Because like I watch these people watching movies and they're like, oh, I remember him from this Marvel movie. I'm like, that person's been a legendary actor for so long, because I remember, like, we're in the internet age here, people. I remember when I was a kid, we did not have the internet. If I saw somebody or something I liked, we had that huge tome of reviews, like the Blockbuster review book, that would have every film reviewed in there, and then have in the back, you look up the actor and tell them every film they're in. You look up the director, tell you every film they made, and then you go and decipher from there. It's like, I like this because of this, so I want to discover this. Now they don't even go up and look anything. And again, I understand that there's not going to be everybody who's going to catch up on music cues or homages, but like, and I won't say anything about the film because I know I mentioned this before we recorded, but it doesn't give anything away, and it's very, because I'm still confused as to why this happened, because in the substance, at one point during the movie, they start playing the theme from Vertigo as if it's the score to the movie. And I'm like, how many people are going to watch this nowadays who know that that's from Vertigo?
Right.
And I'm like, because like, if you're trying to make a point, especially if you're trying to make a very specific point with a cue like that, and half the people watching it don't know what it is, it almost seems pointless to do it, you know? Sorry, rant.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
when you
I do
feel
too.
that it's pointless, but also like
That could be a gateway.
There's that 50% that will get it.
Yeah,
but it feels like the gateway is only letting in. It's like it's that alleyway in Inception, and only Leonardo DiCaprio squeezed through. Nobody else made it through. You know,
one or two people is better than zero, baby. I'll take in this day and age. We got.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's the other thing, because it's like, I feel that in a lot of other ways we are in some weird renaissance, because even though the younger generation isn't going out and searching for a lot of these things, because of, honestly, film talk and because of the movie reaction stuff, which I have a love-hate relationship, mostly hate relationship with, there is this wider array where younger audiences are interested in, you know, if it's, I mean, I think it's stupid that I think it says A24 means it's good. I don't think they realize that while, yes, A24 is doing more production stuff now, it was really just a distribution house. Didn't mean they were making these movies. But Cronenberg, Lynch, you know, a lot of stuff that is more on the fringe edge is actually important to younger audiences. They just don't go and search from around it, you know?
Right.
Okay, fair.
But, you know, I get angry anyway. I'm always going to be angry about something.
I mean, honestly, as film lovers, you're going to get passionate. You're going to get angry because it's the art form that you chose, right?
Yeah.
That's the one. It's the one. This is the hill that you die on, you know? So I get it. And we believe me, we get fucking passionate about.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I think it's weird, though, again, and now I'm getting into the whole critic versus audience argument now, too, because it's weird because there is this massive rift between these two parties all of a sudden, that this narrative of really bad films that certain audiences loved. And again, maybe it's similar to me saying I love The Last Dragon, let's say, and people seeing it now and going, that's so stupid. How can you love that? But there are these movies that are not even 10 years old that were awful, but because they're being shared with other people through this guise of this was great, people are going into it thinking it's supposed to be great and just agreeing because they think that's supposed to be what it is, even though you just watched, you know, Jack and Jill or whatever, you know, some really
the Jack and Jill renaissance is blowing my mind.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. I'm going to say this, and I love this podcast, but there's a podcast I listen to with two very intelligent, respectable people, and they also have been gassing up Jack and Jill. It's like one of the top movie podcasts ever. And I was just like, bro, really? Like, y'all gassing this shit up.
Jack and Jill, the movie where Adam Sandler plays his own twin sister.
Yes, the one with Dunkachino.
Look, I will not say that there are some very silly Adam Sandler movies that I still don't enjoy. I will gladly sit and watch You Don't Mess with the Zohan, another movie that also deals with a very strange, you know, ethnic borders, but, you know, in the hopes that everybody gets together at the end. But I don't care. It's like watching John Turturro fist fight a fire is fucking funny to me.
I mean, it's not like Adam Sandler don't have classics either. Like I'm hearing more people talk about Jack and Jill than Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison, which is fucking wild. Or even The Waterboy. I'm like, Big Daddy. I'm like, he has better movies, man, that are still funny.
You take it and you adhere it to stuff that is much more technically, commercially and publicly agreed to be highbrow. Like you take, like there is an entire world of people I don't understand. Think Wes Anderson's career started with Grand Budapest Hotel, and even those that go and say they love Royal Tenenbaums, leave Rushmore and Bottle Rocket out of the story where Rushmore is his best movie. You know, it's like, what's going on? It's like they just forgot, like, this is where I learned it from about him or this person. And for everything forward is what matters.
Wes is so varied, you know what I'm saying? So, like, when people tell me, like, you know, Royal Tenenbaums is their favorite, or, like, Fantastic Mr. Fox is their favorite, you know, like, that's like me. Like, my favorite is Moonrise Kingdom. Like, you know, like, Wes has many flavors. So I get why that, you know, you brought up Rushmore. I get why a lot of people, they would say, like, oh, yeah, that's not my favorite. This one is. It's
what phase of Wes Anderson, right? Like what? Like, are you in his animation phase? Are you in his super weird, I'm almost parodying myself phase? Right.
I want to make an argument, though. I want to make an argument that I've made on my podcast as well, but I have to get it out there everywhere I can, because I still think Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, and Royal Tenenbaums are his best movies. I think because there is a certain style of the story that comes out as more heartfelt than, even though I'm not saying the other ones don't, but there is a deepness to those movies that I don't think exists further on. What I don't think people realize is that those three movies were co-written and are the only writing credits ever for Owen Wilson. Really? And I think Owen Wilson has a secret heart as a writer that came out in those three movies and then never existed again.
And that's fair. I guess I'm one of the few. I don't really like Bottle Rocket. But I appreciate it. Just like I don't like Thief, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate me seeing the building blocks for what was to happen next, right? So
same with Manhunter, man.
Yeah, like I can appreciate that I'm seeing the birth of something, of someone there. I don't necessarily like those movies. For me, Rushmore was like, it was my first Wes Anderson film, and it was the perfect balance of his super weird, like stylized aesthetic, but it also was a relatable kind of story. Yeah. And then, like, going forward, everything got just more and more grandiose and weird for weirdness sakes, just indulging in his own sort of nuance.
He aimed way into style. Yeah.
Which is fine for him, because people keep on giving him money. I wish people would give me money to be weird. Right?
As always, my comment has always been, if I win the lottery to the point where I have like never ever to worry about, I'm just going to give Terry Gilliam all the money so he can make an old Terry Gilliam film again.
Right? Right. I haven't seen the new Time with the
I started watching it. It's not very good. I didn't know it was going to be a remake. It's not a remake, but it's like a retelling completely of a story in a lot of ways. And I was not ready for that. I thought it was supposed to be, because originally there was talks that it was going to be a Time Bandit sequel sometime in the 90s, that a lot of the main cast's kids were going to play the main group of Time Bandits. And again, I know you can do your own thing, and I know that there are certain things you want to avoid, but I was also unaware that the new Time Bandits, the Time Bandits were not little people, and are not little people, and I find that wrong. I find that if you're going to do Time Bandits, that's what it has to be. I'm sorry, maybe that makes me sound bad.
You run into a weird situation, right? Because now we're in a place where we're all trying to think about how will this look and perceive. And the one thing when you're talking about, dwarves and little people, I'm like, I don't know if you've seen it, but have you seen the trailer for the new Snow White?
I saw a small brief clip, and I know the fervor. Yeah,
I was just like, you guys should have hired dwarves, because that shit looks terrible.
What is it, CG or what is it like?
Heavily, and it looks terrible. I'm like, guys, they did it in Lord of the Rings. They've been doing it for years. You hire small people and dwarves and just put them in makeup to make them look how you want them to look.
And like there are little people actors out there who are trying to find work.
Yeah, like Peter
right?
Dinklage is one of the best actors out there.
Right? Like, I mean, Peter Dinklage never has to worry, but like the guy who's like Carl Dinklage does have to worry, right? About finding.
I don't know that the guy. I don't know his name, but the guy from In Bruges, he should be getting more roles.
Or who's the famous one? The dude who's been in every single genre thing, and he plays like Warwick and
Davis.
Willa. Yeah,
Warwick Davis.
Yeah. Like, come on, man. Like,
but that's my thing too, because again, I know that this is much more of an argument that affects a lot of people too. But it's a story thing for me too. Like, and I get that there are people who make remakes that are based on the original book instead of the original movie that made it big, and so on and so forth. But it's like, forgetting about how horrible the movie was in the first place, I remember walking out of the screening of the remake of Total Recall going, they didn't even go to Mars.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to deal with certain, and I understand wanting to make your own thing, and not just making your own thing for yourself, but wanting to not infringe on somebody else's work, but there are certain things you got to stick to, and the stuff they didn't stick to in Time Bandits is confusing the crap out of me.
I want to ask, were we at the same press screening? Because I remember going to a press screening where they reserved 3 rows for press, and then everybody else worked on the movie. And at the end, people were clapping, being like, "Good job, Len. Len, you did a good job."
I don't remember that well, honestly. I really don't remember. I remember where I was sitting, and I remember I was sitting off to the side a little bit instead.
Good job is what you say to your dog when it doesn't shit on your carpet.
I just remember, the only thing I remember about that movie is like they threw the 3-titted woman in just because. And it's just
that's the thing you don't have to throw in.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, why bother? Why bother?
I mean, look, I'm never gonna argue about a third titty, but it doesn't really work unless she's on Mars, where she's got the radiation sickness, where they're making mutants from the whatever in the ventilation system. Like,
I mean, it's like, I get that when Edgar Wright's Running Man is going to come out, it's going to be more of the book, because the movie was nothing like the book. It's a complete, like, the original book was a story, is more like Survivor, the TV series we have now, except it's one person and people are chasing you. It's like, you're not a criminal. It's like, you just choose to be in it, and because if you win, you get the money. But you know for a fact Edgar Wright's going to throw in the right little nods to what that original movie was, not to say like that it needs to be there, but he's going to do it in such a way that it's not intrusive.
Well, it's because he's a filmmaker first, right? Like, Len Wiseman is just a guy making movies, and how he still got work today, I don't know. But you know, because Edgar Wright's an artist, and like you could tell his love of film comes from whatever genre he's working in, you know. Because I know he's, after Running Man, I think he's doing Barbarella with Sidney Sweeney.
That's what they say, yeah. Well, I'm still pissed because I think originally, I remember after Scott Pilgrim, the talk was that he was going to do a Kolchak the Night Stalker movie, and that just died and went to hell. And I wish that would be interesting. I wish
there's a lot of movies that dude was attached to that died on the vine, man. Like, you look up on unrealized Edgar Wright projects, and I remember I was scrolling through. I was like, oh, he was going to do that. I was like, the fuck happened to half these movies, man?
Yeah,
I'm still upset that we never saw his Ant-Man combat sequence.
Yeah, Ant-Man.
Right? You can see the stuff that they kept from him in that original movie, but it would have been such a great thing to see his movie, you know.
Yeah. And I think I'm gonna be real with you guys. It's gonna have to happen sooner than later, but like eventually they're gonna have to start trusting the people they hire to have their creative voice in these motherfuckers, because these are starting to really bleed together, because they're not the filmmakers they hired, they're just Kevin Feige movies.
Yeah, the Phil Lord, Chris, why I just brain phoned his last name all of a sudden.
Chris Miller?
Miller, thank you. I don't know why. The removing them from the Solo thing was the tip of the iceberg for that shit. I mean, I know there are other people it's happened to, but that was, for as far as currently right now, it was like you gotta let those guys do whatever the fuck they want to do.
You gotta let them cook, because how many failures have they actually had as a creative team?
Even if you don't personally like some of the stuff they may do, let's say, you can tell.
But they are the kings of turning bad ideas into great movies, like Lego
21
movie,
Jump Street.
21 Jump Street, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Yep. All bad ideas.
They are those people that know how to, whether it's nostalgia, whether it's callbacks, whether it is just trying to turn, again, like a bad idea around. They're two people that properly know how to infuse those things. The other people I would say that can do it were both, I would say anybody involved with the original, not the original, but the technically the Andy Serkis Planet of the Apes films. Anybody involved with writing and directing those, and again, I know it's Matt Reeves for the second two, but Rupert Wyatt did the first one. Mm-hmm. They're the only people that know kind of properly like turn in those things that have whatever little notes you want to have that connected to a larger world without ruining your own piece.
Yes, absolutely. Matt, I never got to speak to you about it. What'd you think of the most recent one, Kingdom? Didn't it seem like a giant setup movie?
I liked it more than I expected to like it, based on what I had seen. And again, I try to avoid trailers or previews, but I caught a few things. I liked it a lot more than I expected to. But in the same breath, I don't think it was anywhere near the quality of those first three. And again, because I know that I'm not trying to go off on a rant now about Planet of the Apes movies too, but like for those Andy Serkis ones, I remember seeing Rise and going like, wow, I did not expect that to be that movie. And I don't see how anybody cannot be enthralled with the whole bridge scene. Like that was just beyond incredible. And then I go and see, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I'm like, oh my God, they made a Shakespearean drama in a Planet of the Apes movie. And then you see War of the Planet of the Apes. It's like, oh my God, they made a Holocaust escape from the concentration camp movie for Planet of the Apes films. And that's not what they're making, but they did. And it's like, that's brilliance right there. And you go to Kingdom, like, oh, this was much better than I expected. They went in a road that at least helped move forward based on what these other three movies that prepped it were for. And yes, they're definitely setting stuff up, but in the same breath, it's nowhere near as revolutionary as those films were.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it just felt like it was there.
Like right? It does. It feels like a stepping stone to bigger things to come. You know what I mean?
I was unaware of the plan that it was like, because they first were talking about how the Andy Serkis films weren't necessarily trying to lead up to the original films, but you could tell the way that they footprinted it that was the case. But I was unaware that they were going to avoid trying to connect it that way, because I thought by the end of War, the idea was that we're going to travel with them until they get to the East Coast, so we can see the Statue of Liberty and all this other stuff. But I guess they went in a different direction, which I also appreciate, but I was not ready for it. So in watching it for the first time, I had to kind of reacclimate myself a little bit more, which I feel like I think I have to watch it again because I've only watched it the one time.
Same.
And maybe get a little bit more of a head behind myself on that one.
Same. All right. Well, I'm glad the three of us are on the same page about that movie.
Yeah,
it's not bad, but
yeah,
I wanted to love it because I loved that first trilogy, and what they had done with that, and I was like excited to see how they were going to progress with the story. They did progress with the story.
No,
I wasn't upset. It was just like, oh well, the next one's going to be good.
And that's the thing too. Like if again, going back to Rise, I thought it was a great movie when I first saw it, but I did still have certain issues or felt that it was a little soft in some of the drama sections earlier on. Like I felt that not that it didn't work, because we all know it worked, but I felt it was just how I felt about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Just like, oh, it's good. I'm glad they're doing this. Until you got to a certain point in Rise, where then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, they stepped it up a level. They just didn't step up that level, I think, in Kingdom. So we have to see if the movie itself does it after that. But I think they did enough to keep the franchise alive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
and see where it goes from there, and see. I mean, like, they're definitely leaning into the religious aspect of things more than anything else. So we'll have to also see how that pans out. But I also I try to stay as blind as I can. I had no idea William H. Macy was in the movie. So when he came on,
I didn't either. I didn't either.
Neither did I.
I didn't either. I was like, whoa, what?
And I'm glad they kept him out of the trailer and everything like that. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying, I didn't get to go to the Alien Romulus screening, and I haven't seen it yet, and I'm doing my best to avoid everything. And now I see certain things pop up on my social media that's just like a screenshot. It doesn't ruin anything, but at the same time, I think it does. Don't tell me, don't say anything. I'll eventually see it now. But I'm like, that's the one I feel like I have to avoid right now more than anything else, because that's the one that's going to get the most play on every type of social media. So I'm juking and driving everywhere I go.
Yeah, I mean, look. Have you seen all the other Alien films?
Of course, yeah.
You'll be okay.
Well, not Alien vs. Predator. I mean, I've seen the Alien vs. Predators when I was a kid, but don't really care about them.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's as far as I want to say.
The way you're dodging spoilers for that is the way I'm going to probably be dodging spoilers till I see Nosferatu, whenever that starts screening.
Well, yeah, I haven't watched any trailers yet. Well, it's weird. Maybe I shouldn't say this. I don't think I'm allowed to say this yet. I'll tell you guys after when we're not recording. And it's not big. It's not big. It's something premiering tomorrow at Venice, but I got to see something a little early.
All right.
So I don't have to avoid trailers anymore.
Was it queer?
No. It's something much less impactful.
Gotcha.
Starring some gray-haired old men. I don't know if that gives it away. Trying to.
Oh. Okay. All right.
It's still going over my head. So. After this is done. Yeah. But back to The Last Dragon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The glow, I thought it's funny how he's so disappointed he can't glow, and then he just does it at the end.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's almost a supernatural thing, right? That's why I still consider it my willing suspension of disbelief, because you can argue if you want that it's just a visual thing to look cool, even though he's reacting to it, but it's a visual thing to look cool for the idea that I have now become a master and this guy's the bad guy, so he's got the red around him or like that. But no, it's it plays enough to it where it is it's just like a supernatural essence, and
here's the thing for me. That last fight between Bruce Leroy and Sho'nuff, 40 years later, it still hits.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It still feels like I still get so excited.
Watching him lose it and trying to fight for it.
And then when Bruce Leroy grabs the hand, right? The fist. And it still does it to me. So, I mean, that's a testament of it may not be technically a great movie, but it is a movie that is forever locked in to the soul of a whole entire generation. Yeah?
Yeah, the times when I say the words and I'll just use it, I'll say bad movie. It's it's just because it's so silly and so ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's you can't not love it. And I think if you don't, it's one of those things where I think there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, 100%. But and that music hits. You got that glow.
Yeah,
it's just
you are the last dragon. Sorry.
Yeah,
I will go off if you don't stop.
Yeah, no,
I'll keep going.
That still fucking hits. I'm sorry.
I'm still amazed that they have not tried to remake it.
Same. I'm surprised it hasn't been discussed.
I mean, they've discussed Big Trouble in Little China, which don't.
Well, they're talking about Escape from New York as well right now.
Yeah, that one I think that one's maybe further forward, I think, than yeah.
And that's fine. But the thing about Big Trouble in Little China that they aren't going to get in a remake is that Jack Burton isn't the hero. Jack Burton is the sidekick in that movie, right? They're going to end up putting The Rock in it, and The Rock's going to be the Rock. and it's gonna just be dumb. Just leave it alone. There's no need to there's nothing they can do.
Man, that
just
dude has
make that movie
sold his fucking soul, man.
What was that?
I said that dude has sold his fucking soul, man.
Yeah.
Like Jesus Christ.
That's definitely a rant I don't want to get into. That's a tangent we should just leave alone at this point.
Man, I'll tell you what, I am dreading Red 1. I was like, y'all keep that on Amazon, bro. Like, I don't want to put effort into watching that for this podcast.
See, that's the thing. Because that's the type of movie that was to us what The Last Dragon was, what it may be to young audiences right now, because it's a technically forward-moving action movie that is not meant for children, but is going to play on all these little silly jokes and be really ridiculous that some 10-year-old's going to see, and they're going to think it's God, and then they're going to, I mean, I don't know, I'm just assuming.
Right.
And then they're going to go ahead, and in 40 years, when they have cast pods, or I don't know, I can't think, whatever the next future jump's going to be, they're going to be sitting there talking about it like we're talking about The Last Dragon, though we all know The Last Dragon is worth it.
Yes, superior.
Yeah, but you know what, man? I tell everybody this. Fucking Red 1 looks like one of those movies that they had the trailer for in front of Tropic Thunder.
Yes, yeah.
100%. I mean, honestly, most of The Rock's movies for the last couple of years look like parodies from Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, Skyscraper definitely one.
Skyscraper. What was the other red one? What was the other red movie?
Red Notice.
Red Notice. Yeah.
Well, that's where if they were smart, they would somehow make this weird meta movie where that was the plan all along. It's like The Rock has been making Tropic Thunder full movies for you, and then tie it into a real full movie. I don't know how any of it would work, but that would be brilliant. And I would go congratulations if you did that.
I would absolutely love that. I would eat a hat.
Yes, me too.
If that was the case.
I mean, there's no way I can see it happening, especially since apparently his ego is such of the sort where he can't admit to any wrongdoing.
Because he's peeing on sets. You know what I mean? Peeing in water bottles.
Is that happening for real?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like somebody
Did I miss this?
So somebody proved it right because they took a screenshot of one of his Instagram live, and you can see in the background like a Voss bottle with yellow liquid in it.
I love Pissgate. I love that we're at a Pissgate now.
I didn't know Pissgate was happening.
Yeah, apparently
this is me trying to stay blind. This is why I miss all this stuff because I'm trying to avoid spoilers for things. Sorry, go ahead.
So this, on top of his shitty behavior, he would show up late to set where it would be so detrimental to everybody that they would be behind. That's why the movie started off costing like $150 and is now $300 million. That's how much that fucking shit cost. Because he would show up late. And because he would show up late, they'd have no time. So to save time, he would piss in bottles and hand it to an assistant to get rid of.
I don't even know what to say about this now.
You've said all that you can say.
Yeah, man. Like I don't know what to say other than like, yo, gross and grow the fuck up.
Like anything you try to respond to, it just makes all of us dumber.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, like 100 of that $300 million budget is probably going to him anyway.
Just to buy a bunch of Voss water bottles that he can piss into. Like that's like a quarter of the budget is Voss water bottles.
I mean,
I need these for my rock.
I mean, if he was smart, he would just piss in a bottle and then sell it as like fucking The Rock
pee.
No, yeah, we got to do something. We got to have a little alliteration. The Rock's rocket fuel.
Rocks. Oh no, that would be. I thought if you start selling shit, you can do this Rock's rectal expulsions or whatever. I don't know.
You know, we're very closely there, so I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Like we are skating dangerously close there. I mean,
The Rock has requested a litter box for his cat in the trailer. I haven't seen any cat. Yeah, I don't know.
Every day we get closer to idiocracy.
Yeah, bro.
It's sad. It's sad thinking about it. So many different things, but
we still have The Last Dragon.
You are. If you ask me to sing, I'm just going to keep singing, man.
I mean, if you want to close us out on singing The Last Dragon,
we'll put it down there later. But I do want to say something else about The Last Dragon, because again, also it's stuff like Mike Starr, who was in so many '80s movies for me, and everybody's going to. If a lot of people, if they don't know him by name, they'll go like, "Oh, the Hitman from Dumb and Dumber," but that man was in so many things when I was a kid that I was just like, I thought he was the biggest star in the world, But
character actors meant something.
I mean, character actors are the best actors in the world. I'm sorry, let's all agree on that. But I didn't realize this until looking up, getting ready. So because I was writing some stuff down, is that Jim Moody, who plays his father, the character is literally just listed as Daddy Green. Like, he doesn't have a first name; he's Daddy Green, and I never realized that till now.
What's his younger brother called?
Daddy Green's Pizza.
I
didn't write that. See, that's the one thing I didn't write down.
Yeah, because that kid was stupid. Like, once he ran back in for vanity, he's like, "I'm gonna go save my woman." I'm like, "Nah, you're gonna go get yourself killed, you little dipshit."
He was probably the most real character in the entire movie. It's like some tough kid who thinks he's up to it and he's just gonna run into every situation. If you think about it, he's probably the most realistic character, even though he's fucking stupid.
Yes, on many levels.
Let's try to.
That's my woman. I'm like, bro, she is 20 years older than you. What do you mean, your woman?
I think Richie Green.
Richie Green. Okay. Yeah, I'm like, Richie, by the time you are old enough to even touch this woman, she's going to be like 50 with kids.
And this is now, again, I don't mean to like take away from talking about that portion of it, but like without even seeing the pizza, just seeing the pizzeria, Daddy's Green's Pizza was fucking awesome.
Oh,
you knew that was fucking hot pizza.
Oh, yeah.
And like, that's where I would want to go if I was living in 1985. It's like, if I needed a slice, that's where I would fucking be.
I mean, I would not be surprised if he had like a fried chicken skin as a topping.
Oh, yeah, because now we get all these boutique pizza shops where they got
Daddy Green's Pizza was artisanal pizza before artisanal was a word.
Yeah.
I mean, it was always a word thing, kind of, but it was like all of a sudden some ad agency glomped onto it. Now everything's got to be, it's the artisanal, it's the artisanal bread at Panera. Fucking Panera, man. Like, it's not.
it's fucking hard ass bread.
It's high class Subway.
Yeah, I mean,
except with more calories.
So you compare it to something shitty, yeah, this looks great and it's probably fantastic, but it's not. Let's be real with ourselves. What is it? You have to like mention. I'm a coffee technician or whatever like that. It's like
is that a term now? We're calling them
I'm not trying to shit on people. Don't get me wrong, but it's like we don't have to think that they're like these great masters creating magic behind a counter or something. But they're brewing the coffee. It's like, let's get over it.
Just be like, yo, I'm really good at it. That's why it tastes better than most places. Like, I'm really good. I know the secret. Yeah. Like, I ain't no fucking wizard.
Did you study in France for 5 years to learn how to roast and like do all this stuff? No? Then you're just the coffee dude.
Right.
The secret to making my coffee taste great is the little drip of rock pea water from this Voss bottle that I drip in that makes it taste brilliant. Delicious.
I'm telling you, it's coming. It's coming.
I mean, all you have to do is like all Voss needs to do is start running an apple juice line, and don't even say anything. You don't have to say that you're referencing it, and they'll just sell like a whole shitload of extra bottles of crap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I'm surprised Fiji hasn't like cashed out because they're the most expensive bottles of water you could find.
So like Fiji's just shipping the rock,
just
the rocks. Free containers, like
so that they could jack up the prices even more. It'll go from $6 to $10 a bottle.
The Rock's official piss bottle.
Yeah, why smart water makes you smart, because it's infused with Leonardo DiCaprio's dick cheese. Delicious. Sorry, I don't know why I went on to that one. But,
it's the dick cheese for me.
It was the first thing that came to mind. What can I say?
I appreciate that you went full in on that joke. I appreciate
Okay, here's the thing. I don't like Leonardo DiCaprio, and I think he is a massive turd. So anything I can to attach his name to something worse, I will do that.
I mean, my only problem with him, and I'm like, bro, you're 50 years old and you're still trying to like sleep with models who are under 25. Like, I'm sorry, I'm much younger than him, and I want nothing to do with a 25-year-old because a 25-year-old is going to want to go out and get fucked up till 3:00 in the morning, and I'm too old.
Yeah. Here's my thing with Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not saying he can't do decent stuff, and it's not, but like he's an overactor. I don't like overacting. I want subtlety in my acting. And granted, there are things that are overacting that I enjoy, but like all of his best performances from people is him just going over the top. Going full Al Pacino if you want to consider it that way, and. He can't do accents because he always loses them. He's never had one film where he's had the same accent the entire way through. He's always dropping them here and there. But what pisses me off the most, were either of you at the Django Unchained press conference?
No, I went to the very first screening of it that got pushed back because they threw me in with SAG. And that whole weekend from Friday to Sunday, I had to be on call till they finally screened it for us.
Because I was at the press conference, and even for people like Quentin Tarantino, who just like on like a personal level, just like I could never get along with that type of person, like he's too much.
Yes.
Even he was the most gracious and generous person, both on the stage and off the stage. Everybody there, even Don Johnson, who you expect to be like this kind of, foolhardy, like great people. Leonardo DiCaprio, it was a Saturday morning, and Leonardo DiCaprio gets asked this question, and he starts to answer, and he fumbles for a little bit, and then he stops. So sorry, everybody. I was filming all day Saturday, and I have all these things going on, like talking as if like I'm sorry, not like I had nothing. My Friday was just laying around with my hand in my fucking pants.
Oh, sorry, we're interrupting you.
The way he spoke was so fucking egotistically short-minded. I forever hate him. And it just pissed me off beyond all common belief.
I will give you a quick Leo story, which is at my guild's annual award ceremony. There were some people who found him because he attended that year, and they wanted to get pictures with him. And my man's was flanked by press people, so people literally couldn't get to him. So as he's walking around anywhere, he would have somebody behind him, somebody in front of him, and a person on each side of him. This includes when he came, whenever he went to go to the bar to get another drink, and when he left. Even when he went to the bathroom, he'd have people walking him to and from the bathroom. And I'm just like,
then
dude,
why
you
even
can't
show
just
up?
you just can't be like everybody else and just say, yeah, I'll take a selfie with you, or no, I don't want to take a selfie with you.
Like I don't mind if there are people who don't want to do the selfie thing and all this
Right.
stuff. Like, I don't like approaching people for the most part unless I'm there to literally talk to them for the first for the point of it. But like I use the New York Film Festival as a good example because a lot of times, there's no real not security, but there's no real method behind how they're going to deal with a lot of the stuff. Like the actors just kind of want to walk out and do their own thing and all this other stuff. So like there have been times I remember very vividly. I go outside after the screening for Inherent Vice, and Michael K. Williams is there, just smoking a cigarette. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on, man? Love everything you do. See you later." And he's very nice. Tilda Swinton, she was taking pictures with everybody, but I remember it was after Only Lovers Left Alive. Tilda Swinton and Jim Jarmusch are just standing there. Everybody's taking pictures with Tilda Swinton. I'm just sitting there with Jim Jarmusch going like, Can you, are you okay? Like, I know you want to be there, taking pictures with her and everything like that. And we're just joking around, having fun. But in the same breath, it was, I can't remember what movie it was, but it was Joaquin Phoenix. And now Joaquin Phoenix was somebody for the longest time, you always heard these stories about he doesn't want to do press and all this other stuff. And I remember doing 2 press conferences with him and realizing how much he really appreciates it, but he's awkward. He doesn't know how to deal with a lot of stuff, which is why he's like that. And I remember he was walking through the crowd after trying to go backstage, and somebody was trying to stop him. He's like, no. And he was just running away. And I'm like, but I get that because I understand like that's kind of his personality. He can't deal with it. Right. I'm not going to be angry at him for that. But you can tell certain people's attitudes, and Leo is one of those people that you can tell is just like, fuck you, dude. Just fuck you. Sorry, I went on another rant.
No, it's perfectly fine.
Speaking of the New York Film Festival, as soon as this stopped, that's another thing we got to talk about, because I've heard from other people and I keep forgetting to ask them. So I'm going to ask you, because this needs to happen sooner than later. For me and Jeff is what I'm talking about. Okay. So we'll talk about that.
I thought you were going to ask me a question now. Okay.
No,
gotcha.
Offline.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I'll talk about something else offline too, because it's not fully written in stone, so I shouldn't say it until it is. So I'll talk about something else about that too. Then.
All right. Gotcha.
Before that, we are the last dragons. We possess the power of the glow.
Any
final thoughts, Matt or Jeff? Whoever wants to go
that was a fucking fantastic film. If you should play it for your kids ad nauseum so they can learn kung fu and not be punk ass bitches.
Watch at the beginning so you could catch arrows like a badass.
Yeah, I mean it's a slice of a time that definitely doesn't exist anymore. Because again, even if they do the remake, it's not going to be the same. And that was a style of film, a story, a type of way of putting a film together that only existed in a very short period of time, and that time's gone. So go and enjoy it while you can, because I think it's off to be literally as we're recording this. So I have to see where it's going to go to next.
It is literally a tongue-in-cheek movie. Like, you know what you're watching when you watch those opening credits, and even that opening scene, like, you know exactly what you're watching. So that's why when people have beef with it, I'm like, you guys realize this is a comedy, right?
Right, like this is...
It's over the top.
Not a thing.
It's intentionally over the top.
I still like it better than Shang-Chi, though.
Yeah.
It's 100%. 100%. And I don't think Shang-Chi's a bad movie, but I just don't care. It's like, okay, it happened. Congratulations.
I think the thing that kills that movie for me is, like, I didn't know much about Shang-Chi going into it, and walking out, I was like, I still don't have any inkling of who he is as a character or person.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah.
Fair, 100%.
It was just like it was done and one and done for me. It's like, I mean, I know they're going to make another one eventually, but it's like, all right, it's gone.
Yeah.
See what happens next time.
Yeah. Kevin was mad that wasn't nominated for Best Picture.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Kevin should stay mad then.
I mean, look, I argue all the time that I think some of the best pictures and best performances never get nominated, but just come on, man.
I was like, you guys made exactly a few, like, offhand, maybe 3 or 4 movies I would put in Best Picture, and the best one got nominated for Best Picture. So fucking relax. You got your nomination, and you got multiple ones for that movie. So fucking relax. Jesus Christ. Yeah. All right. Anyways, Kevin. That is episode 132 or 133. Excuse
me. Peace.
Thanks, guys, for having me.
We're the Film Blurs. I'm Brandon Nord, and I'm the motherfucking protagonist.
I'm the protagonist.
I'm Jeff Stewart, a.k.a. He Who Remains.
Don't come at us. It's just fucking movies.
You've been listening to the Film Blurs podcast.
Man, I just love what you guys do, man.
I never miss an episode. It's the best. It's my favorite podcast.
Follow Jeff on IG on MindFireXL and Brandon on Twitter at BJN Tweets.